force. Moving on to Abuja, where the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission has sealed off France, Belgium, and Italy's visa centers located at Mokhtar El Yacoub House Center, Central Business District, Abuja. In Abuja, the federal government, in partnership with the World Bank and other development agencies, has reaffirmed its commitment to improving rural infrastructure and access through the scale-up of the Rural Assets and Agricultural Marketing Project. Moving on to the foreign scene, Finland's parliament voted on Thursday in favor of withdrawing from the Ottawa Convention that bans the use of anti-personnel landmines amid concerns over the military threat posed by neighboring Russia. Lastly, in the breezy world of sports, Nigerian 400-meter hurdles sensation Ezekiel Nathaniel, has been named among the final contenders for the prestigious 2025 NCAA Track and Field Athlete of the Year award, following the string of record-breaking performance that saw him dominate the collegiate athletics circuits in the United States this year. That's all on the news update. Stay for more right here on Avia Morning Show. I am Oji Mwachku. Good morning and welcome to the show.
today's broadcast. You're still watching the afternoon show. Evidently here. Oji.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. You look like Mazi Nnamdi Kanu in court.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's yes.
In solidarity.
In solidarity.
Yeah.
People, I heard Chowore outside the courtroom yesterday when he said that in case anybody thinks he's there for politics, that siding with Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is one of the most controversial decisions you make. So this is in no way him trying to chase clout or get some kind of a political clout from that case.
That's part of him I love so much. He stands for injustice. Like, you must do the right thing. That's Chowore for you. But
Yes.
you know, sometimes he goes overboard and overbearing about things and other situations and all. But then again, he calls truth to power.
Right.
And that's his personality. You
Yes.
know, all the way from the yesteryears, you know, you can always see him at the back of MKO Abiola, and he always leads that force. You know, the altar is in him, and it's still in him. Yeah.
All right. I mean, we'll see how this turns out. Right now, you can see supporters of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, the detained leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, are quite happy seeing that this is a huge step in his trial. We'll find out if that makes the news this morning. Barrister Chidi Uja Atumba is also here. Barrister Chidi, good morning.
Good morning, and thanks for having me once again.
Yes, maybe I don't know how we're going to start arguing today, but
I don't think there will be any reason.
No, there will be. I like arguing with you.
Really? No, there's no. We just do the analysis and then rub it together. I don't see it as argument. It's when you truth will come out. Appreciate the conversation. Yeah.
Look at what happened. Yes,
all right.
To you too.
Okay.
In the Nation newspaper, Tinubu, Kaduna rising again after overcoming insecurity. Green bond oversubscribed by 91.4 billion naira. 47.36 billion naira allotted. DHQ steps up action against killers in Benue. DHQ steps up action against killers in Benue. Natasha's trial for defamation against Akpabio Bello begins September 23rd. Over 250,000 Nigerians are refugees in Libya, Cameroon. On to this day. Bank stocks rally as Ovia Umeoji acquire shares worth 3.3 billion naira in one day. Tinubu, Sani has changed Kaduna from toxic place to state with life, progress, and peace. On Nigerian Tribune, Dangote blames shortage of domestic crude oil for reliance on imports from U.S. Insecurity, Southern Middle Belt leaders lambast federal government. NAS condemn forest guard scheme, say emergency rule in Rivers illegal, unconstitutional. Tinubu admits missing some names on Democracy Day, confers CFR on Dangiwa Umar. Straight to The Guardian. Violent attacks, peacetime killings question value of Nigerian life. Abbas alleges sabotage at budget as Senate reiterates democratic rule. Again, Tinubu inaugurates specialist hospital named after him in Kaduna. Tension in herdsmen graze farmlands. Youth intercept bus. TCN accuses politicians, saboteurs of vandalizing electricity towers. And on Daily Independent, rising insecurity, Tinubu NAS have failed Nigerians, according to SMBLF, warns against reintroduction of Ruga, National Guards, says sole administrator must not conduct LG polls in Rivers. FCCPC sales visa centers in Abuja for obstruction of investigation. Tariff hike, MTN, Airtel generate over 3 trillion naira from data in 2025. Subscribers grown over cost, poor service. Weaker defense tax drive, says Abuja gets just 1% of federal government allocation. Benue killings, Obi picks hole in Tinubu's visit, says it lacked empathy. Surge vandalism may throw Nigeria into darkness, TCN warns. Oyetola flags off Nigeria's Imo Council election campaign in London. 6,260 terrorists killed, 5,365 civilians rescued in 2 years, the DHQ speaks. And lastly here, WHO unveils guidelines for managing sickle cell disease during pregnancy.
Daily Times. Alleged defamation. Senator Natasha Akpoti docked, granted 50 million naira bail. Terrorism charges. Kanu opens defense July 18. FG settles 1.2 trillion naira pension backlog. Launches boost for 223,000 retirees. Kaduna visit. President Tinubu honors Dangiwa with national CFR title. Senate leader explains increase in Rivers 2025 budget proposal. And lastly, right here, police snap 54 suspects in major crackdown in Akwa Ibom. Moving over to Daily Trust. Tinubu to choose running mates after convention, says presidency. Benue residents harbored killers, gave them food, attributed to defense chief. Ground rent. FCTA silent as 14-day grace period expires. Oba Sani turned Kaduna from toxic zone to hub of progress, says president. Moving over to the Matrix. Amid mountain insecurity, FG hails service chiefs for strengthening national security. Imo category C. Oyetola flags off Nigeria's election campaign in London. Outrage criticisms trails Tinubu's visit to Benue. Treason persecution closes case. Persecution closes case against Nnamdi Kanu after 5 witnesses. Court grants 50 million naira bail to Senator Natasha in defamation case. Kaduna. Tinubu commends Governor Sani for developmental strides, pledges more support. Moving over to Amebo newspapers. Terrorism trial. Kanu to open defense July 18 as Nigerian government closes case. Governor Abiodun acknowledges workers' contributions to state development. Hashtag Stop Benue Killings. NYSC relocates core members. TCN boosts national electricity grid with 5,010 MVA addition. Lecturers are paid less than NYSC members. ASUP says as they continue strike. Kogi West Senator turns to prayers over rising kidnappings. Babio Yahya Bello defamation court grants Senator Natasha 50 million naira bail. Moving over to the last one right here. Salient Times. Military eliminates 6,260 terrorists, rescues 5,365 civilians in 2 years, attributed to DHQ. Alleged terrorism. FG closes case against Nnamdi Kanu after calling 5 witnesses. Benue attacks. Community members sheltered the attackers, gave them food and women. CDS Musa alleges vandals destroyed 178 electricity towers in 42 incidents, says TCNGM. It's impossible for Tinubu to win 2027 election, says El Rufai. Natasha, not guilty to alleged defamation, granted 50 million naira bail. Tinubu inaugurates 300-bed specialist hospital named after him in Kaduna. And lastly, on Salient Times, Tinubu confers national honors on Abubakar Umar.
All right, thank you, Oji, for those headlines. I think we have major stories this morning bordering on Nnamdi Kanu and suspended Senator Natasha Akpoti Uduaghan. So we'll start from the major story here on Amebo newspapers. Terrorism trial, Kanu to open defense July 18th. As Nigerian government closes case. Now, of course, the Defense Council has to file a no-case submission in 14 days, and I think Amebo has done a great time by calculating it to July 18th. So could you just tell us exactly what we can take home from this? Help us break down what it means for the Nigerian government to have closed the case against him, and what it means for the 14-day timeline, which should still be sometime 14 days from now. Is that already July 18th? I think that's July 18th. What does it mean for them to have been asked to file a no-case submission? Okay,
when you open up your case as a prosecution, you call your witnesses, you tender documents, and you also present your case. Criminal cases are proved beyond reasonable doubt. So the law expects you to do everything, bring all credible witnesses, and prove it. Prove all elements. In terrorism, there are things you must prove. You prove all the elements to substantiate the charge. When you must have done that, you will close your case. Now, when you close your case, the defense counsel has two options: either to make a no-case submission or to choose a date to open their defense. Now, the counsel for the defense, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, Chief Kanu Agabi, has decided to file a no-case submission. Now, what are we talking about? A no-case submission is a situation whereby the defense attorney have evaluated all the evidences of the prosecution, and they are not enough for the defense to enter his defense. The evidence of the prosecution, Kanu Agabi is saying, they are not enough. They have not proven anything. They have not tied anything to the accused person or the defendant. There is no single material evidence that you can use to say that exactly this ties a commission of an offense to Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. None. From witness number 1 to witness number 2 to witness number 3, 4, and 5, and all the documents tendered, they have concluded that there is no case for Mr. Nnamdi Kanu to do what? To defend. Right now, they will file their no-case submission, and the other party, that's the prosecution, will equally file a reply to that no-case submission. 2 days was also given to them to reply on points of law, after which, when they come back, they will adopt that no-case submission, and another date will be given for ruling to be given on that no-case submission. If that no-case submission succeeds, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu will be discharged and acquitted.
But I'm going, like, from records, what's been going on from inception, and what everybody kept saying, that literally there's nothing here to, even argue about, because there's not solid proof tagging or relating Mazi Nnamdi Kanu to whatever, they've been presenting. What could be going through the minds of the federal government right now in this case? Like, this man is going to walk out here free and not persecuted. Okay,
like you rightly pointed out, I've been following the case. Most of the evidence of the prosecution, they are hearsay, proxy evidence. When you present, let me take for instance yesterday's case. Okay, they brought the PW5.
Yeah.
He was identified as EEE. Okay, they brought PW5, and now they put him in the witness box, and yet he tendered an investigative report. What is he trying to do? He is trying to tell the judge that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is the one who orchestrated the EndSARS destruction.
Yeah.
The report was quite voluminous. He tendered death certificates of police officers who were murdered. He also tendered report on 168 police stations all across the Federation. They were destroyed and burned. In that report, they were all over everything, and where he made that the EndSARS destruction was incited by Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's broadcast. Now, at the end of the day, they asked him a question, and they asked him to actually link this thing to Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. He was unable to do that. The entire report was unsigned, as in nobody signed the entire report. You understand? Yeah. The whole report was not signed by anybody, including him and his superior. It was unsigned. So, and if you know the import of an unsigned document, you understand, in a court of law, you'll understand that it is dead on a right.
Are they avoiding indictments? That's the reason why those dots weren't signed.
I don't know. You ought to have. This guy said, witness EEE said that he was commissioned by the federal government to investigate destruction that occurred during the EndSARS protest, and that he went to the 36th state of the Federation, and he came out with a report that was not signed by anybody. The report was not signed by anybody. The death certificate, no location of the persons, no definite identification. When you look at this whole thing, no wonder the attorney to Mazi Nnamdi Kanu say that they will put a no case submission, because in criminal proceedings you have to prove beyond reasonable doubt.
Okay, so let's come in now. I'm still trying to understand this Amebo newspaper headline that, you know, because we saw 14 days that a no case submission should be filed, and of course, so but what does it mean that Kanu to open defense July 18th? Like,
okay,
can you help us understand the timelines being issued here?
Okay, the timeline being issued here, that 14 days is for Kanu. Okay, right. And I think another 14 days is for the other party.
Yes.
Another two days was given to them to file what we call reply on the point of law. Now, when you must have filed your no case submission within 14 days, the other party will take another 14 days to file their own reply to that no case submission, saying, I proved my case. You are saying you did not establish anything until the prosecution establish a link between the charge and the person you are accusing, until you link the offense in the charge sheet directly to the person you are accusing. No case has been established. No case has been established. You can bring a volume and a quantum of evidence, but you must link all of them to the accused person. You must show beyond all reasonable doubt how he personally, directly or indirectly, improve. There are so many routes you can follow. You can follow direct or you can follow circumstantial. He didn't do it directly, but he did it through proxy. He did it through this. But all of them, none of these have been connected. Even the last one of yesterday, none has been directly connected to Mr. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. So they will now rule on the no case submission. And let me answer you directly. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu will now open his defense. What does it mean for him to open his defense? He is the defendant himself. He is the star witness of the defense counsel. He will not enter inside the dock and start piecing all those testimonies of the first, the second, and the third, and the fifth witness. He starts rebutting them. You understand? If dates were mentioned, he will counter the dates. If a particular broadcast was tried to use to indict him, you understand? He will replay the entire broadcast and tell you exactly the point he was trying to make. He will really defend himself. After that, I think the prosecutor has other witnesses to call to show directly that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, how he was abducted from Kenya and brought into this country. The prosecution will also state the violation of so many international treaties and laws that they are alleging that the federal government committed by the way and manner in which they brought Mazi Nnamdi Kanu into the court. They will also call witnesses to show that there is nothing directly linking him to the NSAS a different arrangement.
So this will be Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's time to actually come out with his own defense.
I mean, yes. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is like opening up a can of worms. You can imagine putting him on a witness box. You understand? He will rip all this evidence into shred because he has. You can remember when he excused his lawyers that he wanted to defend himself. You understand? He's not a man that is short of words, and he's not a man that is short of power and expression. I believe that he used that opportunity and knowledge too, and history. Know that since he's incarceration, he has not granted any media interview. Okay, he has not said anything. He has not said anything. Everything we have heard from Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is through his lawyers. Through his lawyers. So for the first time, Nigerians will hear from Mazi Nnamdi Kanu the alleged beating that he got, the way he was abducted, and also the evidence that the prosecution is trying to link to him, how he was going to one after the other. So that's what we expecting. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu opening his he will not be the only of the defense counsel. Right. The defense counsel will also call some other witnesses and tender also documents to rebut and also, refute what the prosecution has tried to establish.
There's something I want to ask, right? Well, there are so many things said. Okay. People making permutations and also alleging that maybe a conversation is going at the background. Maybe that's the reason why I'm playing devil's advocate right now. Nobody should tie this to me, allegedly. So that maybe at the background, Nnamdi Kanu and Tinubu, President Tinubu, are somewhat trying to settle out of court. Secondly, now, that brings me to this question. The FG, the lawyers, they know that there are loopholes everywhere in this case. And what they are presenting is not solid enough to tie this man. Brings me to my question. Do they know from inception that this case is dead on arrival? They just want to waste everybody's time.
10 years of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's life.
10 years of incarceration, first time and second time. The issue here now is that you will not just play the devil's advocate, okay? You will also open up your mind that there are so many ramifications to this arrest. It's also political, okay? In as much as they are bringing criminal charges and allegations, it's also highly political. Remember that he was termed as a secessionist, okay? He was trying to give more reasons why a particular section of the country should stay on their own, be their own people, and have their own nationality. So it's not something that you expect the federal government to take, like a walk in the park, okay? Everyone who have tried to, break away from Nigeria has always met a defiant opposition, as though there is another spirit binding us together.
All right.
But we find it difficult to actually look at the laws that should ordinarily make us one people.
Okay, we're definitely going to come back to this. We're still going to head back into the courtroom in the alleged defamation case against suspended Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. Now we're seeing that she's been granted 50 million naira bail, despite the fact that she is pleading not guilty to that charge. We do have a special crossover to adhere to now. We have amazing Grace Ajayi, Afia TV correspondent, international correspondent, who is currently at St. Petersburg in Russia. She'll be telling us what's going on now that we've received news this morning that Vladimir Putin is expected to speak at the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum. Amazing Grace, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Amazing, are you with us?
Good morning, everyone.
Okay, we're struggling to hear you, but I'm sure that'll be rectified in the course of this interview by the engineers. Amazing, can you hear us?
Yes, very well.
All right, amazing. Let's try this again. Can you hear us? Can you hear us clearly?
Very well, I can hear you clearly.
Much better, much better. That's a big thumbs up to the back end crew, Iman, the rest. Okay, so great. We know that Putin is expected to speak at this SPIEF 2025. Could you tell us more about it and what it means for those of us down here?
Well, as we know, Afia TV is live on ground here, reporting. Actually, as you can notice, I'm actually on my way to the event venue, and all across the streets, it's like everyone awaiting his coming right here at St. Petersburg. And this is an annual event, actually, that talks about business and investment. And this year also has a focus on promoting a multipolar world, amid Moscow's isolation from the West. Now, since the invasion of Ukraine, SPIEF has also held, but it has faded due to the reduced presence of Western business leaders, investors, and officials at this event. I must also let you know that about 20,000 guests, and this is a report from the Kremlin, from over 140 countries are expected to attend the forum in person and online. By the way, the forum started on Wednesday. And of course, the organizers have also told us that a panel, which is the Russia-USA panel, featured business figures with Russian ties discussing ongoing commercial engagement despite limited political dialogue since the full-scale invasion. And among the countries that are present here, we have people from China, Vietnam, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, the Central African Republic, and we have a lot of Nigerians here, also businessmen from Nigeria, who are here to also see how they can partner with Russia. But today, the President, Vladimir Putin, is expected to speak, and there's a big win for him here because the Indonesian president, by the way, is President Prabowo Subianto. He declined an invitation to the G7 summit in Canada this week, only for him to attend SPIEF and meet with President Putin. So that's a big win for him as Indonesia joins BRICS. Well, he's scheduled to also deliver his annual keynote speech today. alongside President Prabowo, and alongside the Chinese Vice Premier Ding Xuexian. I hope I pronounced it correctly. And also we have the South African Deputy President in here, Paul Mashatile, and he will also be hosting the Bahrainian Royal Nasser bin Hamad Al Khalifa. So today, we're expecting that Putin will speak, a lot about business investments, the Russia-Africa dialogue, and of course, what it would also take maybe for this whole invasion to come to an end. Can you hear me?
Yes. How would you rate the representation of Nigerians at this international conference? How well would you say Nigerians are represented? Maybe we can even narrow down to the Southeast region.
Oh, we have lots of people from the Southeast, by the way, businessmen from the Southeast. We have a lot of people, notable figures right here from the Southeast, and they are all here to talk business, with Russia. And it's very interesting to note that this year's SPIEF is hosting a lot of more Nigerians and people, having more open-mindedness towards what they can gain and what Russia has to offer Africa.
For Africa.
By the way, I forgot to tell you, this year, the focus on this year is very important, especially for Africa, which is focused on shared values, the foundation of growth in the multipolar world.
Okay, so in terms of benefiting countries and benefiting continents, so to speak, what do we stand to gain back here? Why should this matter to us? Why should we be very excited about this conference?
Well, we should be excited because if we have most of our government officials beginning to see that there's a reason why they should attend SPIEF, which, by the way, is one of the biggest business events happening in the world at this point in time, then it means that word will definitely get back home, and that's going to be a big win. I'm sure you know that Nigeria is already a partner nation to BRICS, but beyond partnership, we need Nigeria to become a full country that's, signing up to be in BRICS, which would, by the way, help our currency. As we speak currently, the Naira to rubles is not in a good place. So if we're able to get more businessmen, bring their investments here, and Russia is able to, talk more in cooperation with Nigeria, we would find Nigeria joining BRICS earlier than we expect, and maybe that would help our business environment back home and, of course, our currency.
That's a great one. All right. Thank you so much, Amazing, for your time up there. We hope to see what Putin is going to say at this conference. We hope to get his address. Maybe we can add it and subsequent bulletins. Thank you, Amazing.
Definitely. I would hook up to more programs here so that as he speaks, would have the feedback. And also, we have our partner stations here, TV BRICS, that we have a partnership with, and Rush Today. So we'll partner with them to make sure that we get the feeds back home.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Amazing. You're doing great work.
Spasiba.
Nice.
Have an amazing day.
Nice.
All right.
So
you've heard it all. Barrister Chidi, your quick reaction to this event.
I love the way Trump is trying to open up a kind of a forum whereby Putin and Russia will also be reintegrated. Did you hear what he said to the G7 just 2 days ago? He told them point blank, your system is producing war. Why did you expel Russia from the G8? You understand? So despite the fact that there's a whole lot of sanctions against him, and despite the fact that he is totally kind of alienated by the Western world, they are telling you that we can still come and do business with them one-on-one. Okay, so BRICS in Russia and Putin means a whole lot well for Africa. You can see how they have helped the countries in the Sahel region to liberate themselves from what we call, Western imperialism and all the rest of them. So I think on a scale of 1 to 10, a good relationship with Russia will help Nigeria, more especially on the area of technology. You understand? Their technology is top-notch, and their business, cuts across all kinds of regions, and it will be another way of improving the value of the Nigerian currency. So I think it's a welcome development.
Well, I also think so too. There is a welcome development, and also aligning with the international bodies, strengthening our Naira. Very importantly, right? And these businesses, and also as you pointed out, technology, very importantly, we need to move past the archaic and ways of doing things and move to what the international, align with our international brothers and sisters.
Sorry, just a minute. There's a big difference between BRICS and other world organizations. They don't come in to exploit you. They come in to actually enable you to use your own resources to become great. So I think it's something that I'm asking more especially sub-Saharan African leaders to embrace, because it will help them in the area of education, technology, health, and also governance.
That's right. Okay, let's head on straight now to the Daily Times while we wrap up this review, because we cannot leave without talking about suspended Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. So Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan has been docked. She was docked and granted 50 million naira bail. She pled not guilty to any of those charges against her, bordering on defamation. She went on TV and also during a call that apparently was recorded, saying that Senate President Godswill Akpabio alongside Yaya Bello, they were plotting to kill her. So now they have gone ahead to take it to court. What do you think about this development? What does it mean?
Criminal defamation. Defamation is divided into two. We have civil defamation and then we have criminal defamation. So criminal defamation is actually a criminal offense where you are being charged for making certain statements public, you understand, that defames the person and the character of certain public officers. Now, accusation without confirmation is meaningless. You have to now prove it. You have to now bring evidence to prove. One of the major evidence is what she said, consigning them by, I think that case is dead on arrival. Because the way and manner in which she said it, I think it makes sense to me. Look at what she said. She said, you remove my security details, you understand, and you remove all my security apparatus. What does it mean? You want me to be killed? I'm a senator, okay? I'm a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I could be kidnapped. I could be killed. My enemies could use the opportunity to attack me. So what does it really mean? If she can bring evidence to show that her security details were actually removed, you understand, I think she has, nipped that charge on the board.
But if she's pleading not guilty, why then 50 million naira bail? Help me understand it.
Okay, now, a plea is... There are two types of plea, okay? Either guilty or not guilty. Now, when you say that you are guilty, okay, no case will be open, okay? The prosecution will now ask the judge to review your case. Your case will be reviewed and then you will be sentenced accordingly because you have said you are guilty. There's no need of going into trial when you have already admitted that you are guilty. But when we say I am not guilty, okay, I have a defense. Let bail be granted to me so that I can organize my own person and industry together with my lawyers and then present my own defense. So that bail that will be granted to you goes with a bond. Okay? Anytime you hear 10 million naira bail is a bond, what it means is that someone will now come and sign a bail bond on your behalf. And on the event that you don't appear to court, the Federal Republic of Nigeria will collect that 50 million naira from your shorty who actually signed that bail bond. So it's a bond that the shorty will sign with some documents to show that he's a taxpayer, he works with the federal government, or probably that he has a land in Federal Capital Territory, Abuja.
She showed up in court. She showed up with her husband. What do you think about that support system? He has been with her all through. I love that encouragement to see
how the husband has been very, very supportive in almost, when you look at her senatorial activity in her constituency, there is nothing that she does without involving her husband. When she planned to visit her own constituency and the federal government cordoned off the entire area, it was the idea of her husband to fly her over directly to the place where the conference was supposed to be held. So she is propelled to go further because she has a very supportive husband. And when you have someone like this who stands by you through thick and thin, I think you go a long way to prove your case and also to bring in better government for your constituency.
All right.
What does it say about the Senate president, knowing fully well that he even said with his mouth that these people are my family friends and that they're somewhat like family, right? And these whole things are happening. But what could be going through the minds of Natasha Akpoti, the husband, at this point in time? Looking forward, this man, we could have arrested this case differently, but they bleed out of proportion.
Yes.
And it's getting to them, alleging defamation in court, taking her to court, docking her.
Yeah, despite all the stories of being family friends and coming to visit him, to show him his houses and all the rest of that, it goes a long way to show you that politicians, they have duality. Okay, every politician they have dual, personality. On one hand, they have family and friends. They can attend your birthday party and all the rest of them, even, burial ceremony. On the other hand, if you stepped on their political interests, they will go to any way to protect that, defend that, and definitely, not minding that both of you have eaten on the same table. You understand? They will look down on all the... To cut a long story short, their political interests supersede their social interests.
All right, on that powerful note, we'll wrap up this segment. Thank you, Barrister Chidi, for joining the show today. We'll watch and see how things play out as the days progress and into weeks as well. Thank you.
Thanks
for joining. The morning show returns in just seconds as we do take regional stories. We'll also cross over to Elijah Akuma, Afia TV Nsukka correspondent, as he gives us feedback on the primary schools that have been hit by the floods that took place in Nsukka. You saw that report yesterday. He'll tell us what the situation is today, show us what work is ongoing upon his arrival. The morning show returns in just seconds. Stay tuned. Would join us in moments live from the Ugwoye Primary School in Nsukka, where we did witness some flooding incident earlier this week. Take our first story from the metropolis in Enugu State, where Governor Peter Mbah assures of maximum security. Now we take the story. Enugu State Governor Dr. Peter Mbah has assured the state and Nigerians that his administration is making security its first priority. He made this assurance during the working visit of the Assistant Inspector General of Police. Correspondent Chidima Madu has more on this. Take a look.
The current administration of Enugu State government has assured its citizens of its utmost commitment to ensure their safety. Enugu State Governor, while receiving AIG in charge of Zone 13, said security is key, especially when it comes to achieving its administrative goals of growing its gross domestic product from $4 billion to $30 billion. He identified other challenges within the communities, assuring of active policing to be able to fulfill their mandates to the people through farm estates and other projects across the communities in the state.
I've often said that businesses are not designed to de-risk security. They can take financial or commercial risk, but not security risk. So that is the primary responsibility of government. So we also identified it as the biggest elephant in the room when we were sworn in. And we knew that we needed to do everything to escort that elephant out of our state very quickly. We had to work extensively with the several security agencies led by the police. Initially, the first item was addressing the challenges of sit at home, which was quite common in Enugu when we assumed office. But as you already know today, we've kissed that goodbye. We no longer, it's been resigned to a part of our memory that we no longer want to remember. There are also other fragilities in our communities that we recognized as key, because for one, we do not want to have our people displaced, particularly those who live in the rural area. As part of our commitment is to eradicate poverty. We know that if we don't get our people to farm and to produce food, we are going to have food scarcity, and we're going to deepen the pit of poverty in the state. So we also felt the need to, of course, ensure that every part of the state is secured. We have been actively involved in working with all the security agencies, particularly the police, to ensure that our urban area and indeed our rural areas are secured. I have seen some images recently of things that never happened here, but you see them being peddled as though they happened here. If we discount those falsehood narrative that we hear from the social media and deal with the reality, Enugu, as I mentioned, is unarguably the safest city in this country. We're going to continue to work with the force, we're going to continue to work with the police to ensure that we sustain this security that we're enjoying in the state today.
The Assistant Inspector General of Police, Abayemi Oladapo, commanding Zone 13, on a walking tour to evaluate security operations within the zone while engaging with stakeholders to ensure collaboration between security personnel and local authorities.
I have received briefings from the two CP commands, and we have worked out modalities for synergy between the two states in tackling the current situation we have in our hands. Essentially, I've come to thank you, sir, for the support and the cooperation you are extending to the police and, in fact, all other mainstream security agencies in the state. I think I've met His Excellency to discuss issues of common interest that pertains to security while we are here in this state. And I want to, on behalf of the officers and men of Zone 13, thank you for finding it time to receive us and give us the attention that is required.
Governor Mbari affirms commitment in working with security agencies to ensure a business-friendly environment. In Enugu, Chidimma Madu for AFI TV.
Welcome back to the Afia Morning Show. Now you've heard from the state governor reassuring residents of maximum security in Enugu, well, reassuring the AIG during that courtesy visit at the State House. Now the question is Enugu the safest? Is it one of the safest states or the safest state? That's a question that we'll be asking perhaps in subsequent interviews. Now we move on to Abia State, where Governor Alex Oti has confirmed that there were security breaches in some local governments in the recent past, including, of course, the notorious for what we've been seeing on the news of late, Umuniochi and Isiu Kwato LGAs, but maintained that the developments have been contained. Afia TV's Deputy Chief Correspondent Emmanuel Wazwe reports that the governor spoke during the monthly interactive session with journalists at the government house in Umuahia on Thursday night. Let's take a look.
We have had reports of security breaches in Umunochi and some parts of Isiu to the extent that one of our commissioners was attacked on the stretch between Umunochi and Umuahia. And the Imo State part of the stretch that somehow we luckily escaped. So what we've done is to double efforts to ensure that we secure Umunochi. And those who come from there will agree that in the last few days, things have changed drastically. It is our strong opinion that everything we do will succeed or fail on the altar of security or lack thereof. So we take security very, very seriously. You may or may not have had that within the month, a daredevil camp that existed in Ugunabo was attacked by government security agencies, and we recovered so much. Unfortunately, we lost a soldier, but the casualty on the part of the criminals was a whole lot, including the people we arrested when we brought down the camp. So we went to the state, the Abia State, as the government has zero tolerance for banditry and drug trade. kidnapping, and all such crimes. And we continue to get ourselves prepared to deal with them. I would like to leave it there, but I would like to also say that some of the people who have been unlucky to be caught, and there are a lot of them who will tell you their stories as if you are lucky to see them.
And of course, there you've heard it from Governor Alex Otti of Abia State, who continue to monitor this situation and hope that the Abia State government is able to contain any kind of threat to safety of residents. Lots of security issues in Nigeria today, Oji. What do you think?
Yeah, but the thing is, it's great when the CEO, the chief secretary of the state or any state comes out to tell you that they're on top of whatever the issue is. But the swift response and also the swiftness in them trying to contain the situation is very paramount, salient, and important, right? And Governor Alex Otti right there assuring and reassuring the people of Abia State that he's on top of the matter. He gives you this courage and builds trust, and also knowing that, yes, the government is for you and is there to protect you, right? Yeah, we've been having pockets of what insecurity in across the nation, right? But the question is, who is coming for your rescue? Are these politicians, whatever administration that they have, federal, state, are they calling it what it is and stepping up to make sure they avert and counter whatever it is?
That is the key question at this point. Now we move on back to Enugu. We're going to head on to Nsukka at this point. We do have Afia TV correspondent Elijah Akuma giving us an update on an earlier story where he did cover flooding at Ugwoye Nsukka, was a primary school in Nsukka. Now the way this is situated is you have a primary school or a complex, a compound more or less, that according to him has 3 primary schools within, with different names: Enugu Road 1 Primary School, Enugu Road 2 Primary School, and then the community primary school as well within that vicinity. So the flooding along that Ugwoye axis appears to be affecting that school, that compound that houses 3 different schools. So he's there right now, and he'll be providing insights on what it looks like this morning, what work is ongoing, and giving us his own observation of what is on ground. Elijah, good morning.
Yes, good morning, Natalie. It's a pleasure being with you this day.
It's a pleasure to have you with us, and it's great that you were able to head there this morning and give us a quick follow-up on that situation. So go ahead, tell us, what are you seeing on ground? Is work going on? Is there, I can see the water behind you evidently. What else are we not seeing? Okay,
thank you very much. There are a whole lot of things we are not seeing, and I hope I'll be able to show you most of them. But very importantly, it's the fact that I actually took out time very early this morning to look around the environment, to check, to reconfirm the causative agent or the major cause of the recent flooding. Now, my interaction with some of the residents and people staying around this location proves that the major cause of the recent flooding is the poor drainage system that we have around this place. Okay, when we went around looking and talking to people, we could see some of the gutters filled with sands. In fact, you will hardly believe that there was a deep gutter in most of the places because they were already filled to the brim with sand. And then all thanks to our amazing citizens that we have in some parts of this city that does well with littering or disposing their dirt in the gutter. So these debris fill up the whole space and the water can't pass. So you can see behind me, this water is behind me is an aftermath of the flooding. Okay, so the water was supposed to pass through the gutters. I don't know if we can walk so you can see. We're supposed to pass through the gutters and then go straight, but then they had to divert to this part because of the blockades. Okay, they were all blocked. So I don't know. Can you show them the water?
Yes. Yeah, we can see it. Definitely, we can see it still. It's still out there.
Good. The drainage was blocked. So I want to also show you there's the construction going on here by the local government. Okay, but then the flooding was not as a result of this construction. Can you please show them the construction? So the flooding was not as a result of this construction going on here. I interacted with some of the residents. Some of them even said that this construction contributed a bit to the flooding because there was excessive water outpour. All right. Then out here, you will see. Let me just show you the debris very fast. Please can you bring the camera here? This is what I'm saying. Now, this is a pile of debris. Please bring the camera here. This is a pile of debris. So there was no way the water would have flowed from here. Over here, you could see sand. So this water just found their way into the other parts of the road and then caused the damage that we saw a few days back.
All right, Elijah. Now, I want to know, the frequency of visits. You're saying that the local government is currently doing some work to try to mitigate this flooding. But I want to know if this work has been consistent. How have the contractors been handling it? It's one thing to start something and one thing to finish, and also another thing as to what happens in between. So how frequently have they been following up on this effort?
Okay, as for the frequency, I mean, let's walk through this part and see, because it still looks like it's a fresh work that is going on, but there are no machines here to show that it's on. But let me see if I can find one or two constructors or workers on site.
Great. All right, so we're going to see if we can talk to some of the contractors on site. I hope that there are some that can provide more valuable insights. Elijah, please be careful out there. Are there any contractors on site, any construction workers?
Yeah, I think I can see someone here. Let me see if you can talk to us. Good morning, sir. Yeah, please, are you one of the workers on this? But can you tell us something about this work? We are live on Afia TV. Just something very brief. Okay, sorry, he doesn't want us to talk about it. The person who's supposed to talk to us is not here. But then we can see the construction site. In fact, this construction is affecting the church, because I also spoke to the priest, I guess, the priest in charge of the church. So he lamented about how the water has also affected both the church and his residents, and he hopes that the government does something about this as quick as possible.
Okay, let's talk about the drainage system. That the sand that filled up the drainage, the waterway.
Okay.
Are there plans to, remove those sand? And was there construction along there that made those sand to fill up the drainage system, and it's been ignored all this time?
No, there's no construction going on that.
Like before now.
Pilot. Yes. No, the drainage being occupied wasn't as a result of the construction happening anywhere. Over the years, it has been happening. Last night, I was here in the evening. I interacted with some of the residents. Apart from the interaction with them, I've been in this town for a long time. So this particular road always experienced this during the rainy season. And so because experienced this kind of flooding over the years, okay, so you could, whenever a heavy downpour happens, you would see that the road, especially the main road, is flooded with water. Okay. So now, and it appears that there's a special part where it brings this sand, and not sand. In fact, people normally pack the sand manually. Mm-hmm. If we can go out again, I will show you the sacks that have been filled with sand. Okay, these sands were filled into those bags were filled with sand manually. Yet we still had some sands on the ground, and water can still pass. So if this rain happens again, what just happened is just, for starters, we may have a bigger problem in our hands.
So why is the local government not paying attention, since this stuff happens every other year, and they're not paying attention to find a way and avert or counter,
I mean, I'm even concerned. I don't know if Elijah will be able to speak for the local government, but I'm also concerned about what role the Ministry of Environment is playing, because this is an environmental issue. Yeah. Flooding is environmental. I mean, you have different ministries that have to put hands together to solve this problem, because I would like to see the Commissioner for Environment paying a visit to the school and actually assessing the environmental threat and what can be done to speed up this process, because it ties together Education, because obviously it's a school, so the Commissioner for Education has to come in. It ties together the local government because it is happening in Nsukka.
Yeah.
It also brings in the Commissioner for Environment because flooding is an environmental threat, you know. So these are the people I would want to see working together to solve this. But Elijah, thank you so much for that update. It would have been nice to hear from perhaps the local government chairman as well, perhaps get a comment. Maybe you can get us a comment from him much later today for a subsequent bulletin. But yes, we'll be getting more insights on this from the Commissioner for Education, as he did commit to come into the show this morning to respond to that flooding incident. Thank you, Elijah, for being a part of today's show.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
All right, and please be careful.
Right,
please be careful. Count your steps.
All right, I will. Thank you.
All right, Elijah. We're going on a quick break now, and when the morning show returns, we'll see if we can have the Commissioner for Education, Professor Ndubweze Mbah. He does speak to what is going on at this section of Nsukka and how long the construction is going to take, what the challenges are possibly, and the way forward for the betterment of the lives of these pupils. The morning show returns in just seconds. Stay tuned.
Morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Well, let's just jump right in. I know you have a lot to do today, so let's talk about you painting a picture of what exactly is going on within this area in Nsukka. Why does it appear that this flooding continues to persist despite the ongoing efforts?
Okay, thank you. The schools that we're talking about are a primary school in Enugu Road in Ihowere in Nsukka. Some days ago there was a flooding incident because the school is inside a church, and a flood had come and knocked down the fence.
All right, Prof, it appears we're having a little trouble with your feed, and we really need to, head on with this. So let's just go on a quick breather, try to rectify it, and then we'll return.
Okay.
Morning Show. Apologies for that interference with the feed, but we're back all to go. Professor Mbah still joins us, Commissioner for Education in Enugu State, to paint a picture of what is really going on with the flooding incident reported in Nsukka. Professor Mbah, please go ahead and tell us what really is going on in this affected area.
Thank you. So we're talking about primary school 1 and 2, CPS Ihowere in Nsukka. The schools are located inside the premises of a Catholic church. It's on Enugu Road with double drainage gutters, which are covered. And over time, the residents had filled those drainage gutters with debris. And as a result, water is no longer able to flow through them. And consequently, when heavy rain came, the flood water went and hit the fence of that Catholic church fence, and then water gushed into the environment, flooding the classrooms. So this is a combination of a natural disaster, but also environmental hazard from improper, people clogging the drains of the main road. And the challenging thing was that this is a drainage system that there were no service chambers, right? So, built into them to enable the excavation of the debris that's blocking the drainage. But for the past 1 week, the state government, in collaboration with the local government council, have been working diligently to reopen that drainage system. We have pictures and videos of them at work, because what they're doing now is that they are cutting open the drainage and building service chambers into them to be able to get the debris out. And at the same time, they are building a retainer wall to protect the compound from further flood. And this is also in a context where the NIMET, meteorological organization, warned that between June and November that Nsukka is going to get very heavy flash floods, right? So, there is a combination of, an act of God, which is a natural, rain, heavy rains, and then the failures of society to not use public facilities properly, right? And then that has resulted in our children being made unsafe in their school environment. And the Ministry of Education, the Directorate of Quality Assurance was on ground for the past 2 days now, trying to make arrangements to move the children into safe and conducive learning environments, because we're in the middle of a term and we're very conscious of the fact that we don't want to interrupt their education. We have, so this has been a crisis for our pupils and teachers, but there is a broad approach to this that's involving, in the short term, to relocate the children to a safe and conducive learning environment, and then at the same time prevent more flood water from coming. Because if it rains today the same and we have another flash flood, no one can, that place will likely flood again. And that's just the fact of the situation. But the local government council and the state government are working to rectify the root cause of that flooding, which was that the drains were blocked. And these are human beings, young adult people, who instead of disposing their refuse are dumping them into a closed drainage system, right? And so I think this is also an opportunity to talk about civic citizenship and what is right and wrong. That public infrastructure and public facilities, if we have this mentality that is governments and then abuse them, it could create further harm down the road. We all suffer the consequences. Now, today, our children in schools are suffering the consequences of the failure of adults to dispose their waste properly, and therefore blocking a closed drainage system that runs for miles. This is a very long road, Enugu Road. Right, those of you that know Soka, you know Enugu Road, that's a very long chamber. Right. And the local government council is working around the clock to building, they have to cut it open, build in service chambers and start excavating them. And they've been doing that for several days, right? So, but it's also a moment to, reflect on this is schools. Education is a top priority of the current state administration in Enugu State. And so it becomes really worrisome for us when we have any crisis that has to do with schools in this state and something that interrupts teaching and learning for our children. So that is why the resources of the government, both at the local government level and state level, have been concentrated in rectifying this disaster as quickly as possible. So that is the context of that flooding.
All right, that's a great one there. Thank you for breaking it down in such a manner. But right now, what are the challenges being faced, especially as we're still in the rainy season? NIMET has predicted flooding, and Nsukka is supposed to be affected by it. So what are is this problem likely to be solved within the rainy season? Tell us when this problem would likely come to an end and when the rehabilitative work actually started.
So the rehabilitative work has already started. I mean, the engineers are struggling with the reality of trying to do this in the rainy season, where the floods keep coming. But they are working round the clock, even at night, to rectify this. In my conversation with the chairman of the Nsukka local government area, because we've been playing phone tag on this and coordinated efforts, he's assuring me that they are going to do everything possible to stop the current damage, but that the full rehabilitation work will have to continue in the dry season of early next year. So they're going to do as much as possible. They're opening up the chambers, they're opening up the drainage, they're introducing service systems. But it's also, this crisis has also pointed up the need for a broader enforcement of environmental laws in Enugu State. Right. Enforcement of waste disposal laws in Enugu State. All right. Because we have 17 local government areas, and this could happen anywhere else where people start to dump waste into drainage systems.
Okay, Prof, right? You talked about relocating these students. Is it a permanent thing or just for the time being? And also,
it is temporary. It is temporary. We're trying to make sure that we don't disrupt teaching and learning. Circle. And so, so we are working. Most of the children and teachers have been accommodated within the same environment in an area that is safe, and there is no threat of flooding because of the nature of the topography. And then some students are also being moved into neighboring schools. So the entire Directorate of Quality Assurance and led by the director Nwagu Jobi have been on ground for 2 days, making sure that teaching and learning is not interrupted and the children are relocated to a safe learning environment. And they're working in collaboration with the Education Secretary of Uru Central, the zonal lead evaluators in Nsukka, and the parish priest of that Catholic church. So this is a very coordinated effort.
Mm-hmm. Okay, as ascertained by reports, this is an occurrence. It happens every other year, right? So I want to talk about, or let's talk about the synergy between your commission and that of environment in trying to find the remediation, steps to avert and put a stop to this along that axis. Because I don't know what the plans are to, remedy this issue at this point in time, right? But to have a permanent, lasting solution that it doesn't reoccur again ever.
Yeah. So this was escalated quickly to the state leadership, and a decisive and long-term solution is already being devised for this. There have been, call them emergency meetings, if you will, and a strategy around environmental policies.
Right.
Yeah. So, and it's a broader one, and it's not my it's not my forte to discuss. I think this is a conversation that is best had when we have the Honorable Commissioner for Environment.
That's a great one, because it's great that you mentioned the Honorable Commissioner for Environment, because I want to know how present he is in dealing with this situation. We understand that you have come in because the flood has affected the school.
Exactly.
You are the Commissioner for Education, but this is a broader environmental threat, because we're not just looking at the primary schools, we're looking at the surrounding businesses, the traders and the rest, the road, the travelers, the pedestrians that will be affected by the flooding. So I think I've actually witnessed this flood once on my way from Nsukka to Enugu quite recently, last month. And I remember the flood was building as the rain was pouring down. So I think I experienced a little bit of it. So this has been going on for some time. So in as much as effort is being made to stop it from getting to the school and the church, what exactly is the Ministry of Environment's role in this? What has been done so far? Because a lot can happen between the rainy season and the dry season. Are we going to wait until the dry season before something permanent is done about it? Is it going to wash somebody away before something is done about it? Could you speak to us about these emerging threats?
So, I mean, I can tell you as a member of the State Executive Council that there is a robust state plan for environment and environmental intervention and waste management. And I think, to do that conversation justice, it's best to have the Commissioner for Environment, right, explain that state strategy and what the state is already doing, right, in the area of waste management, which is very robust. It is. We know that there have been investments, in bringing in waste compactors, evacuating machines. That SWAMA is being, reconsidered. There's a whole lot, right? There's a whole lot actually, and that there are. The same agencies in each local government being set up and equipped and mobilized. So I wouldn't do that conversation justice, and I don't want to give out any wrong information. So, but as far as it affects this particular school flooding, these are the steps that have been taken, and they're already being remediated within the 24-hour of this incident. And even before that flood happened, the remediation work had already started, right? So the remediation work was not just a response to the recent flood. And like you said, this had been a recurrent issue. Everybody in Nsukka points out that this is a recurrent problem that the region have been dealing with for some time. And so this one incident is a symptom of a broader and deeper environmental challenge.
Yes, I believe that the school, alongside your ministry, has been the ripple effect of a large environmental crisis. And, I like that we're narrowing this conversation down, because the Ministry of Environment has to be on top of this as well, because it's not just affecting the school. We've been talking about a Catholic church where the schools are obviously situated as a part of this conversation. So it's affecting the school, it's affecting the church, it's affecting the road, which I've witnessed, it's affecting the businesses nearby. Yep. So if you look at it, it's actually the Ministry of Environment that should be owning this chaos.
It's a great deal that the Commissioner of Education is
and the Honorable Commissioner for Environment will be is in a very strong position, well positioned to give us a sense, because there's a whole lot that the state government is doing to deal with this the entire environmental plan of the state, right? So my incapacity to speak about it shouldn't be an indictment or shouldn't lead to any conclusion that the state doesn't have a plan, right? So I was brought on to talk about how we're responding to the crisis as it affected the 2 primary schools, which I've just discussed. But I'm also encouraging Afia TV and other media houses to give the opportunity to the Ministry of Environment to engage and engage with and communicate to the people of Enugu State what the Governor Peter Mbah administration is doing in the area of environmental care.
I see that you are removing both your hands from church money. you have, as the show is going on, I see your hands being removed from church money. Now the weight is going to another ministry. But unintentionally, though, it's just the logical explanation for this.
Okay, but before we let you go, right, the pupils, what's up with them? Have they started learning? Have they moved already? And as you stated, you don't want that educational cycle to be affected. So, what's the how am I going to put it?
You talked about the school, the students, the pupils being relocated to alternative centers. Could you tell us, because that's where the ministry comes in at this point, providing an alternative while the ministry and the local government can work on, fixing that chaos. So can you tell us if the learning has started?
Yeah, learning has resumed. Right now we're in the middle of a school calendar. We have 4 weeks before the 3rd term exam, which entails 2 weeks of intensive studies and 2 weeks of exams for our children. So we've accommodated them in dry areas and safe environments, as much as possible within the.
Where exactly? Could you tell us for more clarity, where exactly these pupils have been relocated? Perhaps how that place would accommodate them to avoid overcrowded classrooms. I remember back in primary school when we had to do combined classes, we had the issue of overcrowding sometimes, and they had to split us again to other classrooms. So how would overcrowding be averted at these alternative areas? Could you tell us exactly where those alternative areas are at this point?
So right now we have a majority of the students accommodated comfortably because there are two schools. There's primary school 1 and school 2, right? And so some classrooms of school 1 were marked where the area really affected. So we've accommodated the students in school 2 within the challenge is that there's not a neighboring schools next.
Professor Mbah, you're breaking up a little. Can you hear us? Can you hear us clearly?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great. So I said, could you tell us where these pupils have been relocated? Could you tell us the names of the alternate centers, alternate schools where they have been, positioned to continue their learning?
Yes, we have moved the school building that was most affected is primary school 1. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Loud and clear. Go ahead.
Okay, good. So we are accommodating the learners in primary school 2 and community primary school in Ihe-Owerri.
Okay, but Ihe-Owerri is the area still affected by the flood. I mean, that area is
the entire area, right, is being affected. But the facilities, the infrastructure that are safe right now, that are not affected currently, are primary school 2 and CPS, Community Primary School Ihe-Owerri. So that is where we're accommodating the students. We're not going to evacuate them from the entire sub-region of the local government area, right? So that is the solution is that there is an embankment being built to prevent more flooding of that entire school environment.
But now that the embankment has not been completed, now that it is still under construction and possibly being affected by the heavy rain, what is the guarantee that the children, the pupils, will be safe if they are still within an area prone to flooding? What happens if there's flooding when learning is going on?
The local government council has taken steps to ensure that bank is already built up, so we don't expect more flooding. But the classrooms that are affected have been evacuated and the children are accommodated in the other 2 primary schools in the vicinity. So, you know, we have 3 primary schools in this vicinity, and the school children affected from the 1 primary school are accommodated in those other 2 primary schools. And again, this is a response to an emergency that is realistic. We're not going to move them to a whole different part of the local government because we don't have a way for them and their parents to get to those schools. So we're concentrating effort on making sure that the areas not affected by the flood are not as affected subsequently in the short term. So those are the immediate steps being taken.
Okay, the immediate step, if we get you now, first and foremost, the problem is as a result of the improper waste disposal by a lot of the people along that axis. Now, the solution has been, from the ministry, has been to move the students, pupils in the affected classrooms to another block that is not being affected as much as the previous block. Is that accurate?
That is not affected by flood.
That is not affected by flood at all. But then how is the crowding being managed? Because then you have the challenge of too many pupils in a classroom. So how many pupils will be in a classroom at every given point?
The schools are not overcrowded because we are using 2 out of the 3 primary schools available.
CBS and Enugu Road, 1 or 2 classrooms.
Yeah, so we don't have overcrowding as such. We've moved the pupils with their teachers. And, you know, this was a response that began yesterday, relocating them following the incident 2 days before, right? So that is an ongoing process, and we are monitoring, and I'm getting reports. And I have a meeting with my directors after this conversation to follow up and make sure that the learning has not been interrupted and that the children are safe.
So the length of this inconvenience is fully dependent on how long it will take the Ministry of Environment to fix this?
So again, this is a collaborative effort between the state government and the local government council. And the remediation work is already ongoing, actively going. Workers, engineers are there doing the work as we speak, right? But beyond, we have to also look beyond this moment, right?
Go ahead.
Management practices, that waste management practices are simple, and that people are not blocking drainage systems with waste. Because when they do that, they create these crises. So I think for me, that's the most important message that has to be communicated. This is a very, very well constructed road, a covered drainage system, and then people are filling it with waste. You know, and then that creates, so the societies have a social contract between the government and the people. When governments build infrastructure, the end users who are citizens have to evince civic citizenship. When they don't do that, they put all our lives at risk. And I think that is the stronger message to communicate, right? Of course, when we fail as a commonwealth, as people, and it leads to crisis, yes, this government is expected to come in and help again. But people also need to start taking up responsibility. Look at the amount of investment in education infrastructure, for example, in this state. Look at the amount of investment in roads, in transportation systems, in power, business. The government has a system for the transformation of society, but if there is no character, if there is no, sense of civic responsibility and civic citizenship, how are we to sustain all of these investments? That is one thing that, from an education perspective, that is one thing that this crisis points up for us, that we need to conscientize our people about civic citizenship. In the smart green schools, that's what we are teaching our children. they start learning waste management, waste organic and inorganic, decomposable and recyclable waste from nursery 1 at